Yesterday we were talking about eyes, today we're talking about ears. We've got the ears guy on today. He's called Matthew Allsop. Matthew is the audiology manager at independent hearing clinic Harley Street Hearing and has expert knowledge in the diagnosis and management of hearing loss in both children and adults. Matthew completed his degree in audiology at the University of Manchester, where he was awarded a distinction for his clinical excellence and an award for his research project on auditory evolution of multiple sclerosis in Caucasians. He now manages a team of audiologists as well as providing ongoing hearing care for new and existing patients. So we're going to talk about ears today. And Matthew, good afternoon, sir. How are you then?
Good afternoon, everyone.
First of all, what is an audiologist, and are there other kinds of hearing experts that you differ from?
Audiologists basically are healthcare professionals that specialise in the diagnosis and management of anything associated with the ears. So it could be tinnitus-related, vestibular disorders, things like hearing loss. So it's all the related conditions as a result of those.
Do we look after our ears? Are you appalled when you see customers and they're not looking after their ears?
I'm shocked.
What shocks you? What's the worst condition you see?
We see ear infections, we see otitis externa, otitis media. Probably the one that affects people the most is hearing loss.
And what would be the cause of that?
There are many different causes of hearing impairment. So it can develop congenitally, so it can be inherited. It can come as a result of being exposed to loud sounds. It can be drug-related, so ototoxic drugs can affect your hearing. But the most common cause of hearing impairment is age-related hearing loss.
All right, now, should we clean our ears? Should we use those cotton buds to clear wax from our ears if we are having hearing problems?
Ears clean themselves, they're fantastic. The problem is when people use cotton buds, they interfere with the ear's natural migratory process. So wax contains fatty acids, it contains cholesterols, it contains alcohols, and it contains dead skin cells which are naturally migrating out of the ear canal. It's produced in the outer 2/3 of the ear canal, and if you interfere with that process, it won't work its way out naturally and it will become trapped. It will affect your hearing. It will also possibly cause temporary tinnitus.
Yeah.
It could also do damage to your ears as well.
What kind of damage?
Well, if you end up using a cotton bud and shove it further down, you could perforate your eardrum, you could scratch the wall of your ear canal. Yeah.
But sometimes, I mean, there seems to be an awful lot of wax coming out of our ears. Surely then it's okay to clean it up a little bit, isn't it?
No, again, not. If you've got wax in your ears, the best thing to do is to go and see your GP. They'll ask you to put olive oil in your ear for possibly a week, and then they can wash it out. Alternatively, using microsuction. We have a wonderful big microscope. We can make your ear huge and examine the wax, your ear canal and your eardrum, and then gently suck it out using a microsuction device.
But if you're saying that, ears are self-cleaning, so really we shouldn't have to do anything. So supposing we don't mess about with cotton wool buds and we don't intervene, then why do we get an excess build-up? Why doesn't it just all happen naturally and we don't have a problem?
There can be certain skin conditions. It could be possibly that you've got a particularly bendy ear canal, a windy ear canal, or even hairy ear canals. As we get older, our ear canals become hairier, and that can just stop that process of it working its way out naturally as well.
Talking with the ears guy today, tell me, why do we get hearing loss as we get older? What actually happens inside there?
It's simply wear and tear. So with an age-related hearing loss, what tends to happen is it's not that you become profoundly deaf and you can't hear anything at all. You're unable to hear that sharpness and the distinction that you perhaps hear now.
And this happens to everybody?
In terms of the population that's affected by a hearing impairment, there are 1 in 6 people, so that's 11 million people in the UK.
And the nature of the loss would be what? Put it into something practical for us, something we understand.
So if you're looking at a piano, it's the sounds on the left-hand side. So the doom is the low frequencies.
Yeah.
And then as you go over to the higher tones, it's on the right-hand side. From a speech perspective, you've got the sounds which are the faint rushes of air between the lips, the tongue and the teeth. So sounds like f, sh, s, k, t. And they're the ones that tend to go as you get older.
Okay.
Interesting. And once they've gone, that's it. You can't cure them, you can't get them back, or maybe you would, employ a hearing aid or something?
You could employ a hearing aid, or you could employ an audiologist to give you a hearing aid.
Yes.
Yes.
But you can't cure the deafness.
You can't, no. So there's something called outer hair cell damage, which is the anatomy that's affected with an age-related hearing loss. And once they're damaged, they're completely damaged. So there's nothing you can do other than manage it by wearing a hearing aid.
And is it true that listening to too much loud music and wearing your headphones too loud can cause some of that damage and hearing loss?
Definitely.
Don't you worry then that we have a generation of people who always have headphones on, surely?
I think that by the time I'm 31, by the time I get to an age which is maybe 40s, 50s, the majority of people will be wearing some form of hearing amplification. Just because of the noisy world that we live in nowadays, even walking down the street, you're exposed to 85, 90 decibels of sound, which is enough to cause damage to your hearing.
And can I ask a stupid question? How does it damage it then? If you're listening to constant loud music or loud noise, what does it do? Does it damage the eardrum?
No, it's beyond the eardrum. So you've got your outer ear, which is up to the eardrum. You've got your middle ear, which contains the ossicles, the bones, and then further on you've got the inner ear, which there are hair cells lined up in a row and what's known as being tonotopically arranged. So certain ones are associated with the lower tones, as we were talking about before, and others the higher tones. And then it's the ones at the higher tones that get that wear and tear.
When we come back, I do want to talk about tinnitus. We know several people with tinnitus. Also about balance. So we're coming back in just a moment with Matthew Allsop. Don't go away. Talking about hearing with Matthew Allsop. He's an audiology manager. We've spoken about deafness. I did want to talk about tinnitus. I do know several people with tinnitus, and this is the ringing in the ear. And I would guess that millions of people suffer from this. Do you know, as a hearing expert, what the cause of it is and how it is maybe relieved and or cured?
In terms of the number of people that have it, it's approximately 1 in 10 people in the UK suffer with tinnitus. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a buzzing, did you say it was?
I hear all kinds of things. I hear buzzing, ringing, I hear a high-pitched kind of noise. I mean, different people hear different things.
I have it mildly, I think, and I've had it for a long time. I don't think it was working with headphones that gave it to me. I mean, is it possible that I had it even as a young person?
I myself have tinnitus as well in both ears, and I've had it ever since I can remember. I just thought it was the body working and doing what it naturally does, and I thought everybody suffered with it until I started in the world of audiology.
And what causes it?
There are many different theories on the causes. The general consensus in the scientific community is that it's not produced in the ear but higher up in the auditory pathway. And there are many theories on the causes, but there are known associations with hearing loss, with exposure to loud sounds, as we've already talked about, and with certain medications that you take.
Now, what about those machines? It's got a frequency that rings the same frequency as you're hearing in the ear with the tinnitus, and it cancels it out.
There are certain devices, sort of white noise generators we have, or even hearing aids, and they will produce a sound which is designed to distract you from the tinnitus, so it's designed to make it more comfortable.
So it's not curable then? You can only manage the symptoms, can you?
Exactly, so it's a case of managing it and being able to understand the tinnitus. And it's amazing to see the contrast between people coming in having not really a vague idea in terms of their tinnitus, what's caused it, and being quite stressed and concerned by it, thinking it's perhaps something more sinister, and then afterwards actually having the management tactics, and that in itself is enough sometimes for people to be able to cope a lot better with it.
And with somebody like yourself who've had it since you were very young, is it likely to get worse, or might it even go away, do you think?
Do you know, it could go either which way.
Let's move on to balance. Our balance is calculated in the brain in 3 different ways. Through the vestibular system in the inner ear, receptors in your legs, and by your vision. So obviously we're going to concentrate on the inner ear. What does that mean?
The vestibular system is just the body's ability to balance and to react accordingly according to certain head movements and body positions.
How does it affect our balance and why?
So in your ears there's fluid which is on different gravitational planes, and once that fluid moves around it vibrates little hair cells which then sends information up to the brain, and the brain decides how we need to balance. It's not just using the ears though, it's using the information coming from those proprioceptors that you talked about before. So the legs, the muscles, the joints and the feet, and also the vision. When they're all working well together, that's when everything works fine.
Wow. That's like having a spirit level in your ear then, isn't it, in a sense?
Exactly.
But it's interesting because, of course, if you're travelling, let's say you're on a ship, for example, I mean, you've got this weird thing going on, haven't you, where you're moving and presumably your brain's having to process that.
And the reason why people get seasick is because you're getting conflicting information between your ears, your eyes and those proprioceptors.
Just finally, that thing that we get on the plane where our ears click and almost switch off, what's all that about? What's happening inside?
We have a tube that connects the back of our throat to our middle ear called the eustachian tube, and that opens and closes with differing pressure. And the job of that tube really is to equalise the pressure between the middle ear and the outside world and keep your eardrum vibrating properly. OK, and as we go, general rules on ears, please. People neglect their ears, so they don't consider them like their eyes. So in an ideal world, it would probably be best if you had your ears tested once every 12 months, once every 20 months.
Really? That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. And looking after our ears at home, what should we not do with our ears? What should we do without going to a doctor or a specialist?
Leave them be. If you've got any concerns about them, if you've got any concerns with tinnitus, dizziness, anything hearing related, go and see your doctor. That's the best thing you can do.
All right. Thank you very much. That was very instructive. Anything else you want to ask? Or you're happy now? You're happy now?
Yeah, I know exactly what I'm going to do now with my ears.
Okay.
Or what not to do.
Yeah,
Nothing.
Yeah, what not to do.
What'd you say? That's Matthew Allsop, everybody. Thank you very much.